Our next question is the TCI model, the principles of how a TCI computer infusion device and maintains a constant effect site concentration of propofol. So when we talk about TCI, the structure is define TCI, then draw, okay, and then you talk about the TCI, then you talk about bolus, maintenance, effect, and plasma, and then you briefly talk about Schneider and Marsh. So what is a TCI? TCI is a target-controlled infusion. The aim is to achieve target plasma concentration or target effect site for a multi-compartment model, 3 compartments, via a microprocessor with a maximum rate of 1200 mils per hour. Then you draw the ones, and ideally to scale. So V1, V2 is much bigger, which is peripheral rich vessel group, central compartment. Okay, this is muscle. This is actually the high rich grooves, such as the plasma also has like brain, liver, and stuff, but we don't have to talk about that. And then you have the effect site, and then poor vessel rich group, drug K1E, K12, and that K10, and this is KEO. Now you should define what KEO is: the elimination rate constant for the effect site, or better, the equilibration rate constant. And then K10 is the elimination rate constant, T half KO into over KE. You should describe that. Bolus, then you talk about bolus maintenance and the target. So bolus is V1 times CP for a plasma. Bolus for an effect site is VDPE. Why is it VDPE? Because it's the volume of distribution to effect site. So this actually peak effect. That's what volume of distribution at peak effect. Then you talk about maintenance, and so maintenance is basically CP times the clearance from V1 and the redistribution. So it's the same formula. So you have CP, but it talks about the distribution from V2 and V3 and the clearance from the V1. This is achieved by incrementally reducing, taking into account metabolism and distribution to peripheral compartment. Then you talk about plasma target site and effect site. What would happen when you increase? What would happen when you decrease? So CP, bolus is given, and then this is the maintenance rate. When you increase the rate, what happens? Another bolus is given, and that's a new rate. When you decrease the rate, what happens? The infusion pauses, and then the CP drops to a new maintenance rate. Important to know that no CP overshooting, because this one looks like that, right? But the other one looks like you have an overshoot, and then you get the effect site. So no CP overshooting, and CE lags behind CP. CP and CE at steady state are 4 to 5 T half KOs. In the effect site, again, CP bolus is given, but it overshoots, where time to peak effects meets the CE. Increase rate, another overshoot by the plasma. So when you increase the rate, you get another overshoot. You get a pause, and then the CE is reached, and that's the new balance. When you decrease the rate, it's a bit weird. What happens, the CP and the CE both fall, but the CP falls quicker. And then a bolus is given, and then the maintenance rate is achieved. So CP and CE at steady state, time to peak effect is 1 to 1.6 minutes, which is Schneider. And how do you remember that? That's Schneider because the E is in Schneider effect site, while Marsh doesn't have an E. Then you talked about based on effect site, which is Schneider, and based on plasma, which is Marsh, and you compare the two. The best way to compare it is basically this. What are the fixed things? So Schneider has fixed V1, which is 4.27 liters, fixed V3, which is 230 liters. The KEO is 0.456. In Marsh, you have the rate constant that are fixed, and the best way to remember that is here. So you have the rate constant that are fixed, these are variable. While in Marsh, in Schneider, you have V1, V3 are fixed, the KEO is fixed, the K10 is variable. So you have the variable in Marsh is all the VDs, and the limitations are overdosing, obesity, and elderly. While in Schneider, the K10 is by lean body mass, weight, and height. How do you remember that? You remember that because Schneider has a 2-year-old son, and so the V2 is based on the age, and obviously K12 and K21 are based on the V2s, but they play with Ben 10, K10, whatever, which is weight, lean body mass, and height, and that's the Jones formula. Now, limitations of the Jones formula: BMI 37 and 42. We'll talk about the Schneider versus Marsh in a different video.